Alright, I wanted to do a video on the solar. A bunch of people were asking online that I do a video and talk about how I did this. And maybe I'll answer a little bit of why I did this at the same time. So let's start on the roof. So you've got your solar panels. Underneath is 3M double-sided tape along with Sikaflex structural marine. I think it's 292. That stuff would hold it by itself and then some. I went ahead and put some penetrations through to make the panel adhere and seal the Sikaflex up, mainly more than anything. The screws could probably come out now and it'd be fine, but I'm leaving them in there because there's already a penetration. Sikaflex is done all the way to the edge, so the screws are inside of the dry area. And then there's also Sikaflex done at the penetration, so to seal around the threads. I've got these, which I purchased off Amazon, and they're just penetrations with a wire in there. You can tighten down around it, waterproofs it. And I didn't really want to mess around too much with making it fancy on the inside. There's another video out there where they're making it functional more than anything. So my wiring is a bit of a mess right now. I'm gonna clean this up. I've got I got extra wire and extra terminals and stuff, and I'm gonna get some probably some Velcro wire management. My penetrations come down right in between the back part of the roof and this panel here. And some other people have drilled holes into this cavity here and tried to fish the wire through and put a nice little terminal piece right here, but I thought I could try and hide most of it back behind this part back here and tuck it up in there at least a little bit, instead of having all kinds of wires and penetrations on the roof here. To get the wire to go through, I basically took this panel off. I ran my wire inside it. I ran my wire down here, and I ran my wire down and put the solar controller here, which is a Victron 7515, I think is what it is. And it's got Bluetooth integration, so I can constantly monitor the solar and what it's doing. And then I basically came across, pulled this panel off. There's a spot where you can get a wire in between the window, and there's actually already a hose that's going through there as well. So I just chased it with that one. Wire goes through, comes in, connects to the battery with a breaker link. Pop this hood up. I've got my wire with the breaker right there, and it's just connected to the battery. So, yeah, I mean, if this was like a customer's car or something, I'd probably have done not penetrations in the roof probably, and find a way to weight it down with the Sikaflex. But I mean, it's safer with the screw penetrations. The Sikaflex is sealing it all up, and it's adding structure. And I apologize if my camera's not quite putting in my face. I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm using my phone to record this. So, a little bit of what I've noticed with the solar. The solar actually has battery management, and it has 3 different states of charge. Bulk being that it's charging the most, and float is when it detects that the battery is pretty much full and it's just kind of trickle charging it. Majority of the time it's in bulk mode, just from day-to-day operation and it chilling and whatnot. And what that tells me is that the AGM battery, the start 12-volt battery, is not topped off. It's not charged up to a point where it wants to float. It is bulking, which is telling me that this is even with the car plugged into shore. And I noticed, like, I haven't been able to find online. People said that the ignition has to be on for the high voltage battery to charge the 12 volt battery. And I took that information and thought that was the case. But my solar charge controller tells me the voltage that is going to the battery, and this could just be that what voltage it's inputting, so it's hard to say at this point. But I mean, even at night when there isn't any solar, I'm seeing like 13 up to 14 volts at that battery, which is telling me that the shore power is actually attempting to charge the battery too. Also, in the daytime, when I'm not fully topped off, when I'm not plugged into shore power, I'm seeing a constant bulk charging state, which is telling me that AGM battery is not topped off. That I was never seeing it get out of bulk state when I had one panel on. When I put the second panel on and we had some good hours of sunshine, it finally got from bulk state to float state with the two panels, 100 watts total. So that's telling me that without the solar panels, I would have been below full state of charge on the 12 volt battery. Who knows how much below, but I can tell you I was seeing a lot of times where it was like 90 watts, close to 100 watts at noon, peak sun, and I'm seeing a lot of like 80s, maybe in the like 10 to 3 o'clock range when it's in full sun. And it took a whole day of sun with 80 to 90. Let's say we average 70 watts for the usable 5 to 6 hours of light, to get it out of bulk charging into a float to fully charge and top off that 12 volt battery. So imagine if you didn't have the solar, there's a lot of the time where your AGM battery is sitting below a full state of charge. And when you go for a drive and kick that ignition on, it's going to start trying to get that AGM battery topped off, sucking from your high voltage. And if you can get that charged to a full state of charge and topped off before you even start your drive, the car's been parked day before, morning of, a little bit of both, and get that battery into a full state of charge, you're going to require less of the high voltage battery to input into the AGM battery to run the accessories, increasing your range. By how much? I mean, yeah, we're talking small percentages, but everything adds up. If you're operating the Jeep as a city vehicle and you're constantly plugged into shore power, like, I don't think it's going to be a big bonus for you. My plans for this vehicle is to do a lot of overlanding where I absolutely have nowhere to plug in ever. For days at a time, I cannot plug into shore power. There's absolutely no outlets, no nothing. So I am 100% reliant on gasoline, 100% reliant on driving the vehicle to charge up the AGM. And there are times where I'm going to put it in e-save and get that there's actually a mode in there where you can have it charge up your high voltage battery, because there's times when I'm ascending a hill and doing some climbing over certain things where it's basically in hybrid mode without high voltage state of charge, not getting any of that electrical benefit from the electric motor, and it's relying 100% on the internal combustion engine. And for some of those ascents and rock crawling scenarios, I would need that electric motor. I'd like to have that electric motor, so I do put it in e-save mode and try to keep some EV range for off-roading. And I think this is something Jeep probably needs to look at. There should be an overlanding mode or an off-road or an off-grid type mode where it will have a more balanced profile to save a little bit more of that high voltage range, anticipating that you're going to use it in climbing a hill or climbing over some rocks. And yeah, it's kind of, when you're going to go use this thing off grid a lot, it's kind of a dance and a balance of getting what you want out of it by adjusting the modes. And I think the solar, for me, I'm going to have a refrigerator in the back. There's times when I'm going to need to operate a winch potentially. I am looking at this top mount Starlink that this company in California, I can't remember the name of them, 74 Weld, talked about in one of their videos, has this permanent mount Starlink dish that just sits there on the roof. And overlanders, we spend a lot of time where we don't have self-service, so I either have to get a Garmin and send text messages, or the Starlink is going to allow me to make a phone call, capture a video, upload a video maybe if I want to, do a little bit of work while I'm off-grid and overlanding. So I like the idea of having the Starlink for both emergency situations, potential to work, and connect when I need to. I do like to put my devices away and enjoy nature, but there's a balance of that with other priorities. So due to the Starlink 100-watt consumption off that, due to the refrigerator 45-ish approximate consumption off that, potential to use the winch, you've got your air conditioner going, consuming off the 12-volt. If there's any nighttime driving, you're going to be operating a lot of lights that are going to be taxing that battery. And when that internal combustion motor is not running, you're not getting the benefit of a traditional alternator, which this one has more of like a smart alternator generator motor combo unit. But it does recharge the AGM battery when the internal combustion engine's running, and when it's not, it's sucking from the high voltage. So if I can get a little bit of power from the sun, I can offset a little bit on what it's sucking out of that high voltage battery. And the plans are, I'm going to put a rack up on the top, and half the rack is going to be for a pod tent. The measure is 59 inches. The overlandish tent is the one I'm looking at. And so I can run that long ways on one side of the rack up top, and on the other side of the rack I was planning on having a longer rectangular, like 200-watt solar panel, and at the end of that the Starlink. And so one side's solar and Starlink, the other side some gear, a pod tent, and I don't think I'm going to need, I don't have any plans to do a rooftop tent. Just a little bit of storage on one side of the safari rack would suffice, and that would give me about 300 watts of solar. And that's, of course, like the reason why I would plan on getting more is because 300 watts of solar usable, you end up, I mean, you might be getting 200 out of that 300 watts because of the amount of sunlight that you have. So the more the better. And if I can produce 200-300 watts of solar in the daytime, that's going to offset and power a great deal of the 12-volt accessories that are running while you're operating the vehicle. I do want to take my amp meter and connect it up to the battery and see if I can get a readout with air conditioning or heating, what kind of consumption we got with the blower running, with a couple of the daytime running lights on, and just powering the infotainment unit, the stereo, all of that, to see what, it'd be useful information, what is the amp consumption of the 12-volt accessories on the vehicle without solar, without anything, just what does it draw when you're sitting there? What does it draw with the AC on? What does it draw with the heater on? What does it draw with the climate control off? And to get that kind of data will tell us a lot about how much we're actually offsetting with solar. And I know solar is very polarizing. It tends to get into political, whatever political side you're leaning to, you're going to have kind of inherent feeling about solar. And I think if you look at a lot of the overlanding rigs out there, look up some YouTube, look up some overlanding videos, you're going to see solar on a great deal of those vehicles out there, and it's because of the need to power the refrigerator. And you've got more energy loads, recharging and powering a portable battery pack that you're later going to bring to the campsite or in the tent. In an internal combustion only engine that's constantly running 24/7, you have you're going to eat up a little bit of your MPG, but you're going to have that alternator running at all times. And in this vehicle, I feel like more times than not, my internal combustion engine's not running, and it's running off electric. And I could extend that even further if it's not powering up this internal combustion engine to try to generate some power to, once the high voltage battery is drained, to try to give the AGM a charge. And that AGM battery is going to also last longer if it's not constantly being drained. We're doing cycles on that battery. You drain it up, you charge it up, drain it, charge it, drain it, charge it. You're cycling that battery, which is eating its lifespan. If we're cycling that battery less, if it's dropping less state of charge, because some of the solar is powered in a percentage, maybe 30% of the accessories that are running, 40%, 50%, that AGM battery is going to last longer. So that's kind of my review. That's the reason why I did things. Hope I answered some questions. I know I could have done a better job on things. I'm not a pro. I wanted this functional and didn't care as much about how it looked. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want me to do a video on some other aspect of it, leave a comment. All right.